The surprise are in the sky, standing in my way. Why, oh why? Always asking why. Needs to know what's going on. Under pressure, proving his existence, losing confidence, filling holes with anything but consciousness about himself. Greed is taking over for spectacular events. Information for the mind is stirring to the body.
Welcome to the Cosmic Reality Radio Show, where our hearts are our masters. Your hosts are NPL Hopkins and Walt Silva. Producing the show is Colleen Kelly. The theme song is called Disturbance and is written and performed by Renate Jet and Jet Music.
You're listening to Haggy Shack Radio at haggyshack.com. Simulcast with Cosmic Reality Radio on CosmicReality.net.
Freaking weird, man. It's not wanting to connect at all. But the stream says that it's just friggin' fine. I'm going to restart it from there. Come on. Let's see if that helps. Da, 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 da. Oh, here. Yes, it did it.
It did it.
It did it. So, we should be live now.
Okay, we should be live now. Okay, so I'm going to just say we should be live in HSR.
Let it buff a minute.
Yeah.
Or two.
Oh yeah, and then OJ's got the wrong thing, and oh boy, it's so many things to think about.
Yes, drives
Good
you freaking crazy.
Oh, I don't know. There's one chat for two streams is funny. I'm never sure who I'm talking to, or if anybody's on me, or we're gonna get this together. When we get this together, wow, we're gonna. Oh, it's funny. Mona just said interesting. Wow, just as I said that. See the synchronicity of us and our audience? We don't even have to be connected. Anyway, so we should be connected. Everything should be going. And I'm going to go back to my friend Walt and say, Walt, what is your take on what's been happening? Just give me a rundown on what you've been feeling about anything.
Oh, I've just been looking at the stuff that everybody's looking at, like the Fulford reports and stuff like that that's getting posted. One of the things that I noticed is that when Fulford is saying something about this country and Trump, a day later or maybe a couple of days later, you'll see an article posted somewhere on an alternative website, saying, the president is doing this, president is doing that, kind of confirming what Ben has said. So I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that his source might be somewhat reliable because you're seeing, from different sources. Like, for example, Fulford commented that when Trump failed on his healthcare modification, he says this man has to go after the AMA and after the pharmaceuticals because they're the ones holding a stranglehold on the whole medical establishment in this country. And then a few days later, I'm seeing that he's tweeting something about the pharmaceuticals. So that makes sense. Yeah, if you don't go after the people that are not letting you do your work, you're not going to get your work done because everything is so tightly under control.
Well, last Wednesday, actually the show that just replayed before this, I was on with Nora, and we were going over the Fulford report because it had so many interesting things in there. And one of them was a discussion of John Foster and his apparent murder, and that he had been dug up, and that you might have read the report, and that he had been dug up and they found 2 bullet holes in his head.
Oh, yeah, the chummy friend of the Clintons.
Well, no, he was their lawyer. He was actually their attorney. And he supposedly committed suicide, when was it, 23 years ago. And I remember the case very well, because it was the first time that I ever confronted the notion that they actually murder people up there. They find it's necessary to murder, the Clintons being the ones that were doing the murdering. And it was like, that was the first time I ever had that notion that that was a modus operandum for people at that level. I thought, God, you've got to be smarter than that. There's got to be other ways. Have the IRS go after them. I mean, it just didn't make any sense. Plus the fact that at the time there was some very peculiar situations that were occurring, like according to the article, and I honestly don't remember, but the article said that he was not, there was no autopsy of the body. Well, I remember that there was some really weird things that should have happened no matter who he was, but weren't happening. So maybe that was it. But when Fulford gives me a link, I go and I look at the link, but then I go and I check. I see who else has got this information. And I did that day. And I was not particularly impressed with the site he gave. So I looked again, and there was somebody in there, and I don't remember who, that was a reputable site that I had dealt with before and thought that they were legitimate. Because I'm getting to the point where I don't know what's legitimate or not. I mean, it's like they all seem to be, well... And that one, was saying basically the same story. So then Linda White got a hold of me and said, they're saying Snopes is saying that it's BS. And I go back in there and I do another search, and I cannot find the link that I looked at. You can still find Fulford's, but you can't find the other one. So my response was, well, I don't know. I did due diligence, and the site that I know, because it wasn't listed in the list of Googles once I did it again, it wasn't there. And so I don't know what that's about, but it could be that Fulford, I don't know. See, I find these things about him that put it all in jeopardy again, because he says things that, yes, absolutely, they pan out, but then he says these other things. So I don't know whether the other side is trying to counter some of the things that he says. There was an autopsy, dug him up. Well, let's just bury that. I don't know. I find it very interesting because, okay, so let's go back to Fulford. This is what you've been looking at these different things, and you've been saying what what are you feeling, Walt? You go on journeys. Are the journeys changing in any way? Do you feel like they're all the same? You're working with the same energies. Has there been any changes that you detected? Are you muted?
Sorry, muted. The changes that I've been experiencing are in my own local reality ever since I heard several times that call from Anelia decoding the matrix, because I've been putting it into practice. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it, but she makes using very simple words and terminology, she explains something that all the metaphysical Eastern religions kind of get people to understand, and they have a very tough time understanding it. And it's explained in a different way by Drumbala Melchizedek in his book, Living in the Heart. And quite simply is that, for example, you're sitting in front of your computer now, and you are you. You are Nancy Lynn Hopkins. That's your name, that's your identity. But that's not all. You are Nancy, you are the fish tank, you are the house, you are the dog, you are the cat, you are the property, you are the vegetation, everything that surrounds you. The only reason you can have an awareness of it is because it's also you. It's made of you. Like, for example, when we experience, like somebody says, somebody wrote to me saying, I cannot embrace the concept of accepting the pain and welcoming it and letting it grow so that it dissolves. And I said, well, it has nothing to do with re-experiencing the pain. Is that in order for you to experience pain, remember, you are a living ocean of energy. Part of that energy became pain so that you could experience it. So all you're doing by accepting the pain and not denying it or pushing it away, what you're doing is you're just welcoming a part of yourself back into you, like a soul fragment, and because you're loving it and accepting it, it just dissolves. It releases its pain format and it goes back into that ocean of energy. So that is incredibly powerful and empowering, because I also was in a dialogue with another person when I explained the incredible value of owning your stuff. And I mean absolutely everything, like every fear, every anger, every negative thing you've ever expressed or done or whatever it is. Once you own it and you say, yeah, this is mine. Yeah, I did this pain. Yeah, I did this hatred. Yes, I did this. I did that. It can't control you anymore because you're owning it. Yeah, it's mine. Leave it alone. I just put it in that on the floor over there. It's mine. Don't why bother with it? It's like I was sharing this thought with one of the ladies who is one of our listeners, and I said, remember the phenomena of the black, the blackmailer, for example. You have somebody comes up to you, they have compromising pictures of you from the past, and they're threatening to ruin your reputation, speak to your husband, speak to your family, destroy your life because you did these things in the past. And you know that blackmailers, no matter how much money you give them, they never go away because you are you're the money cow. And then you decide, okay, I'm going to get my husband and family together and I'm going to tell them. If they forgive me or not, that's on them. You don't control that. But you have just destroyed the blackmailer. Why? Because you owned your stuff. It's yours. How many people spend their lives running away from their lives? That's the list of martyrs and victims out there. Oh, I'm a victim of this. Oh, everything's happening to me. Just own it. A part of you, some level of consciousness created it in order to give you that experience. Own it. It's yours. Yes, I did make that mistake with that person. Yes, I did say something that wasn't true because I wanted to get into her pants or whatever the reason was. But now it can't haunt you anymore. It doesn't rule your reality anymore because you just owned it. It's yours. I know you hate driving. When you get behind the wheel of the car and you leave your property, are you taking the car where you want it to go, or is it driving you?
Kind of. My car drives me.
Let me guess. Nancy has an AI in the car and it goes where she tells it.
No, I have all these. I get in the car and I do thank you, Jesse's angel, because my niece Jessie gave me this little angel. Thank you, Sandy and Mom, because Sandy and her mother gave me another angel. And so I have to go through this whole, angels, before I even let the car go, because
but
I don't.
Whose feet are on the pedals and whose hands are on the steering wheel?
Hey, I have my hands on the steering wheel, but I have been in so many automobile accidents that I have no doubt that I am not in control of what happens. I gave that up a while ago because, if you just think about what it takes to have two cars collide in a given intersection. If the guy stops and he takes another sip of coffee, it doesn't happen. If the neighbor stops and waves at you and you wave back, it's not going to happen. And I've seen this time and time again. Now, Granted that I think that, and this is an interesting thing because I do believe that the reason that I went through all of those accidents was because of past life, not so much karma as past life trying to tell me something that I wasn't paying attention to.
Yeah, and you hadn't addressed it. If you had addressed it, you wouldn't have had to have the experience.
Precisely. But no, me, I'm like, But
the point I'm trying to make is that, without going into that part of metaphysics, the point I'm trying to make is that you own the car. So the car has to go where you tell it to go. Well, if it goes into a ditch, it goes into a ditch because you weren't paying attention. But when you own your stuff, you begin to get more and more and stand more and more in your power. Because then nobody can, whatever they throw at your face, I did. I lied so that I could get that refund, or I did this. What are you going to do about it? Then you're just diffused it. All that energy, it can't control you because you just owned it. It's mine. I accept it. I welcome it.
Well, that's true in the accident thing too, because it's a subtle difference. But once I understood that it wasn't just fate manipulating, okay, it was that I was not paying attention to the message. I owned that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not just what you did and you got caught, or maybe you decide you have to fess up or whatever. It's every single thought that you have has an influence on your life. Every decision, every piece of it. And you can pass it on to chance, or, that there's all these other things in happening. But, and which I do. I know that I'm not in charge of it, but I'm going to look at it and say, okay, what are they trying to teach me? Because it's always a teaching environment. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it always comes down to that question: are you going to take responsibility, even if you had no responsibility? Well, yes, I will.
At our human level of consciousness, feels convinced that they have no responsibility, but we are everywhere. We already exist in all the dimensions. It's just that we are so focused in this little soup can of being human when you're awake that we forget. We have so many levels of consciousness. Just because you're not attracting something in the wake state of consciousness doesn't mean that you're not attracting something subconsciously or unconsciously or superconsciously. That's the thing that Jim Self was explaining to people that were having a hard time manifesting what they wanted, following the law of attraction as explained by Abraham and those, the Esther Hicks books. And when I put it in practice, like in Elliot teaches, we have to find where the boundaries are, find the limitations, find the firewalls inside you. He was correct. Even though you're using the law of attraction to focus on what you want. And I want this particular car, not because it's fancy or expensive, but because it has the safety features that I want. But subconsciously you have this program running I'm not good enough to deserve that car. I will never have that car. Well, that's working against you. That's sabotaging the law of attraction right then and there. Law of attraction doesn't care what level of consciousness is focusing on something. It's consciousness. You get what you focus on all levels of consciousness.
Gene Rockefeller had a story to tell about that because it really demonstrates it. Her dog, would like to go out and run, just take off and run. So Gene would say to the dog, and this is somebody that talks to animals, so she would say to the dog, do not run. But as she said it, she would picture the dog running. So the dog got two messages. Oh, I'm not supposed to run, but she's saying I should run. So he follows the dominant thought, the dominant message, which is not the words, it was the thought.
Exactly.
So when she finally realized she was doing this, then the dog stopped running. She put the picture of standing still instead of, the other one. And I find that too, is that you have to be very careful because all of a sudden you'll be envisioning what you don't want, not what you do want.
Exactly. That's how sabotage. Yeah. It's like For example, last night a client that lives locally called me, and he had some. It wasn't that he wanted to ask questions in a Germanic journey. He just wanted to talk about his daily things. And one of the things in his life is that yes, he wants to date. He wants to find someone that he can share his life with. He enjoys, this is a well-to-do person. He enjoys good art, and he enjoys, like, whenever he has a chance to travel, he goes to these European cities to look at, monuments and museums, and he enjoys all that. And I said to him, well, keep an eye. Imagine that you're in this, like your own house, for example, but everything's boarded up, so there's no daylight coming in. So everything is pitch black, and all you have in your hands is a flashlight. So you turn on the flashlight and you point it in one direction and you see a picture, one of your pictures. Well, that's it. That's your reality right there. You are only aware of this. Your focus is on this picture. This is your reality now. You're looking at a picture of a woman next to a river. That's your reality. Then you move the flashlight in that direction and you're seeing a table. Okay, that's your reality right then and there. You're looking. It's what's in your awareness at that moment. The light is falling on a table. And this is what we do constantly. I said, I cited the example of a man here, also another local man who for years he was in, these people that open accounts in dating websites. He had his name like in 3 different websites. He had recorded videos. He kept updating his profile periodically, and he kept going to meetings that he didn't like very much because of the type of meeting, and some of them because of the type of people. But he was going anyway, on the off chance that there might be somebody new that he would get a chance to meet. So as I explained to this man last night, all of these activities have one focus. I'm alone, and I want to date someone. But that's the focus. I'm doing all these actions because I'm alone. So the focus of your awareness is that you're alone. You're not focused on the thought, I found someone. I feel such gratefulness. I feel such appreciation. I finally found someone. I'm with someone that I like. No, the focus of his activity was, I'm doing all these things because I'm alone and I want to find someone. So he finally, he got tired of it. He realized he wasn't enjoying life, wasn't doing the things that he wanted to do because of putting all this energy into finding someone. So he closed the account, stopped going to these meetings that he didn't particularly like. And a few months later, somebody showed up in his life, and now he's married because he let go of that focus. Like, remember when in the previous show I gave you the example of people that diet and exercise and they don't lose any weight? They're doing all those activities because their focus is, I have to do this because I'm fat. Your flashlight is shining on the fact that you're fat, so you have to do these things that you don't particularly like very much. So I said, just catch yourself during the day. Just get into the habit. Okay, what am I focusing on? And there's a perfect example with Gene, where the words did not coincide with the thought. And the animals reading your mind, they're not affected by the veil, so they can read your mind. We can't read each other's minds, but the animals have no veil to block them.
I sometimes wonder how stupid they think we are.
Oh my God, they must get such laugh out of us. Things we do.
These people don't understand anything.
Talking about consciousness.
Right. These unconscious people are trying to talk about consciousness. What I find intriguing in this whole concept of taking control over your own mind is that it seems to be, and this is the thing, is you don't know which comes first, the chicken or the egg, and of course we've agreed that it's really the thought. So every time we take another leap in thinking, just talking to somebody and you go, oh wow, all those aha moments that you have during the day. So when you look at what's happening energetically in the planet, there seems to be, it seems to me that we are picking up the energies, that we are increasing our vibrations. I don't feel the same. In the last few weeks, really, I feel like my body is changing, that there's this, at the etheric level, basically. I feel like the etheric body is actually becoming empowered somehow. And it's the feeling that, I mean, I'm still looking at myself and I'm going, no, I still got the wrinkles, I still got all this stuff, but I'm feeling much stronger inside. And
it do look different. I mean, when you're seeing somebody every single day, it's very difficult to perceive differences because differences accumulate over time. But I mean, last time I saw you on chat, it had been like over a year since I saw you. My mom caught it right away. She sees you even less. And already she started seeing the differences in you. It's just that it's not so dramatic like an episode of Bewitched, but it's there.
I'm laughing. Bewitched. But anyway, but the other thing that's been happening is that I'm feeling like I'm thinking in another layer of thought, of creativity, of connectedness. And I said to Jean, Jean, it's like if somebody with, algebraic knowledge that is off the charts would be here in front of me talking to me, I think I would understand what they were saying to me. And she said, oddly enough, that happened to me. And I said, oh, tell the story. She was at some conference, ran into a guy that was some kind of a mathematician thing. And they got to talking, and he started going into math. And she said, we both got transported to a different place. And she said, my best guess is that we were in the etheric. And everything that he was telling me made perfect sense to me. And she said, and she kind of mumbled to herself, although I don't know what that was all about. And I said, oh, I do. I said, it was years ago that did this happen to you? And she said, yes. And I said, well, years ago, you needed that experience so that now you could tell me about it and confirm and confer that it is, in fact, an etheric level thinking, that we've taken another leap in thinking. And, that's kind of like I was trying to come in the back door. Have you perceived in your own way of thinking? Because I know you're in your head a lot. And of course, you've gone through the mind overlay release. So, are you perceiving in your own self a change?
Yeah, every day. Like I said, once I switched the focus of how I was witnessing things. Like the first night that I lay down in the pyramid and I listened to her recording, the Decoding the Matrix. And I was not analyzing it intellectually. I wasn't wasting my time with that. I was just focusing on feeling. How does this feel? Does it feel right? Does it feel correct? And my guts were agreeing. Everything made perfect sense. So I decided to do that exercise where it's like, when you're in a film, they're looking at something and then they zoom out. And as they zoom out, the frame encompasses more and more and more. So I did that. I thought, okay, let's see. I am myself. I am the furniture in this room. I am this room. And I started releasing my awareness from just being inside my body and accepting just an exercise in acceptance and allowance. Okay, yes, I am the bed. Yes, I am the wall. And just welcoming it all. And in my mind's eye, I saw myself, floating over the state so that I could, like as if you were in orbit, looking down at the landmass. And the first thing that hit me was complete absence of any anxiety, any fear, any tension, any stress, anything. It was just, what a big sigh feels like. Imagine that inside your awareness and your consciousness, like just big sigh, all the tension just melting away. There's nothing to fear anymore because you are everything. There's nothing to fear. I'm everything. So that was really fun and nice and good, and I've made it a practice so that every meditation begins with that, just melting into everything. So then nothing can truly worry you, because everything is a projection that you've made and you're experiencing. It's like remember when Riley was with us online and we discussed this thing that they do with AA, where they make you say, my name is so-and-so, I'm an alcoholic, and I haven't had a drink in so many years. And I disagree with that, because you're creating a mental projection that I am something I'm not. So my perception is, why can't you say I am a perfectly healthy human being that is, for a limited time, gave himself the experience of alcoholism, and now I stopped. Because that's all it is. One of the things that in talking to other people, especially in my country, that they're so obsessed with status symbols and prestige and all that crap, is that one of the insidious programs of the system of control is how little you're worth, even though we're priceless to them, because it's our energy that keeps their crap going. The trick is that they make you believe you're nothing, you're worthless. So you have to study, you have to get a degree, you have to get a PhD, you have to have a profession, you have to have a skill, a vocation, something, in order to give you value in the eyes of society. So people are like so transfixed with giving themselves labels. Oh, I'm a master carpenter. Oh, I'm a guitarist. Oh, I'm a violinist. I'm a pianist. I'm a painter. I'm whatever it is. They label, instead of saying I am a sovereign, free will, eternal being in a human body, and I'm giving myself the experience of being a gardener. And I'll enjoy it for a time, and then I'll do something else. Because when you look at it, Nancy, yes, you did go to the army. Yes, you were a captain. But before you were a captain, you were Nancy Lynn Hopkins. The highest expression of your being is being a human being, being an eternal being in a human body. I mean, can you think of something higher than that? In this dimension, I mean. Yes, I know there are other dimensions, and we are there too, but in this dimension, the highest expression of yourself is you. There will never be another Nancy Lynn Hopkins, no matter how many clones you make, because her expression is unique, because her life is unique, because her whole experience is unique. Everything that you've ever lived and experienced makes you unique compared to the next soul. So the highest expression of your being is you. Have you been a captain? Yes. Were you a computer designer? Yes. Were you a mineralogist? Yes. You are an infinite being living an expression of a person with a name, and you're giving yourself these experiences. Why? Because they're fun, because we came to experience, because we came to enjoy everything that exists. And people totally miss the point. They start labeling themselves like, I'm a professional dancer. So when I hear things like that and I look at them, I see how powerless they make themselves. Because what happens if you have an accident or old age and you can't dance anymore? Does that mean you're not alive anymore? Does that mean you're not a human anymore? Because you're not a dancer anymore?
Well, you know what gets more interesting even is the concept of that there are many versions of ourselves.
Exactly.
Okay, now, if you've got many versions of yourselves, then how do you know when somebody's reading the Akashic Record that they're actually got the version of you?
That's the thing. You know, what is the level of skill of that person? I always, you said it to me one time, and I thought about it, and I thought, Nancy's right about this. I totally agree with her when you said, I would never let anyone have permission to read my Akashic Record. And it makes sense. Why? It's your business. It's your experience. Unless you're consciously and actively seeking for help for something that for some reason eludes you, and assistance is always a good thing, because like any good healer or any good guide, they can open the door, but only you decide if you walk through it. I can see something like that, but those people that ask for it to be read just for, I don't know, entertainment's sake or just to get some information or something, I don't see. It's my business, and it should remain that way.
And part of that is because I believe that I will get the messaging that I need. You know, why go after something that, you know, if it's important enough that I remember it, I'll remember it. Otherwise, it's not, the record is not for me, it's for my higher self, my oversoul.
Your group benefits from, your soul group actually benefits from your Akashic record, because when you do that, the merging the soul groups do, it's like putting on VR goggles. What you lived, they get to live. If you had a physical experience, a mental experience, an emotional experience, whatever it was on this dimension, when you merge with them, it's like they're going into a virtual reality room. They get to feel it in their beingness and their awareness, what you felt. That's why soul groups evolved so naturally, because what one experiences, they all experience. And that's how you grow exponentially. That's why do you think this I agree with him with Bartz's when he says that the system, you know, doesn't let soul groups be born with each other. Because of that, because their power becomes exponential. Like I told you the story of this lady that I couldn't do the shamanic journey. I asked, she gave me the birth name, but it turns out that the last name in the birth certificate was her father that she grew up with, who was not her biological father. So when I asked the name of the biological father, and I asked, is this her true name? It said yes, which makes, when you think about it, biologically it makes sense. Legally it doesn't, because it's supposed to be whatever name you got in your birth certificate. But then I asked the question, if her biological father and her, do they belong to the same group, soul group? And the answer was yes. Then it made perfect sense. Not only was the man her biological father, but he's also a member of her soul group. So it makes sense that would be her true birth name. The name of the man that is the biological, not the man that raised her. And there you have it. You know, instead of being given the opportunity to be born with her biological father, circumstances were such that she couldn't. Even though in later years, you know, they knew each other and they had a very good relationship until he passed, but she didn't get that chance to grow up as being his daughter. And I see it with our family. I mean, we look at these. I know that me and my mom, we belong to the same soul group because we share memories of Atlantis. But we look at these other people that supposedly we're related to, and it's just, what planet did these people come from? There's nothing, not one single point of synchronicity or resonance or nothing. They're worse than strangers. So I believe that. But I think that more and more you're going to start seeing members, as this whole thing is collapsing, members of soul groups being allowed to be born and grow up together. Whether it's brother and sister, husband, wife, whatever. They're going to start coming together faster and faster because we see it in the form of friends. More and more you start connecting with people that think and feel like you. I mean, like I said to you before, if somebody had asked me a year ago, I would have said impossible. But now I'm seeing so many people coming together, you know, same level of energy or same resonance or agreeing and the same principles. Where before, you would go to these meetings and places and expos and whatnot, and you just couldn't find a single person to resonate with. And I think to me, that's a symbol of the system collapsing. It can't keep a tab on everyone. It is.
When you think in terms of those my feeling is that there is, well, we had this young man on who was very much into the concept of organizing different working groups together. And this just went contrary to what I really think is happening, because the concept of group workings really was something that they tried, and it was called communism. And even democracy it could be argued that way. But you cannot give up yourself to the group. As soon as you've done that, you've lost all your power. You have to look in terms of keeping an individual powerful. Because if you keep an individual powerful and in control of themselves, they're going to want to go to the place where they find joy and happiness. They're not going to want to go to the place of misery. I mean, there might be some fools out there, but the vast majority no. We're looking to have a good time. So if you've got those people out there that are working to have a good time, then the people who cannot resonate with that, they fall to the side, because the person is so focused on where they're going. And right now, I don't know where I'm going, because I lost the thread that I was on. But what I do see is that as a matter of fact, I said to this young man, I said, Wilhelm Reich's quote of, if you want to destroy a movement, organize it. It's the individual.
If you want to kill the spirit of anything.
Yeah, organize it. And I think that is very, very true, especially today. That we're coming together with individuals coming together feeling like a link of family, not of philosophy. It's like we all know that we've all got different stories, and that we don't really know which story is going to be the story that goes down in history, but that we're coming together for different reasons than you see other groups of people. Other groups of people come together because of a philosophy, of a way of viewing reality, whereas we're coming together because of an emotional connection. Yes, we find the continuity of similar thinking, but it really is this, people that come to Wolf Spirit or Cosmic Reality, they're feeling an affinity for the energy. It feels like home. That's why we had to leave Wolf Spirit. It no longer felt like home.
And also, at least for my experiences in the chat room, I noticed that the majority of the people are people that are not afraid to think for themselves. They don't have to take anything that I say or you say as gospel. They're free to hear it. If they don't like it, they toss it, which is what you should do. You should always be sitting in your power. Just because somebody's telling you something and the person firmly believes that it's true, it doesn't mean that it's your truth. You can evaluate it and you say, okay, this doesn't resonate with me. I'm just going to leave it aside here and just go on. And people are not afraid to say it. They're not going to be censored for it. Where in other places, just the slightest comment or opinion is enough to get you tossed. So that's not right.
Yeah, well, the other thing about what I see different here is that there's a lot of times where I don't know if it's true or not. I'm just telling you a story. I'm just testing the waters. What if? What if it was this way? And the more what ifs I've put out there, the more I've begun to realize that when you what if something, you actually start a thought form up that starts to manifest that. So if I say...
You notice the difference between doing that and actually having a deliberate intent? That when you do what if, you are projecting something, right? An idea, a thought, a concept, but you're leaving it alone because it's floating, it's like putting something, a little boat on the water and the river is just taking it downstream. You're saying, okay, what if? It's just floating there. It's a possibility. Because you're leaving it alone, it's going to manifest very fast. Because that's one of the things I was explaining to this gentleman, is that when you ask your guides for anything at all, ask and then make an effort to forget that you ask. Leave it alone. Because when people, I know it kind of sounds contrary to what I was saying about the flashlight, but it's not, is that when people focus that, this is what I want to manifest, this is what I want to bring into my life, yes, become aware of it. This is what you're going to bring to your life, and then forget it, because your subconscious, your unconscious, it knows that you just established that, and it's going to keep repeating it. But if you, at the conscious level, keep harping on it and keep harping on it and keep harping on it, you end up sabotaging the energy of it, because one of the things that we do at the conscious level, I'm not saying you do it because your way of thinking is atypical to most people, but normally when people want to manifest something, the first thing they're aware of it is that they want to manifest it because they don't have it. So somebody told me that if I put this thought forward and I'm focusing on this, I'm going to bring it to me. Okay, but one of the things you're not realizing is that you keep focusing on the fact that you don't have it. So by harping on it and keeping repeating that this is what I want, you keep affirming, but I don't have it yet. So maybe I'll get it tomorrow, maybe I'll get it next week. No, just forget about it. You already established, this is what I need, this is what I want. And then forget about it. Even forget that you even made the projection, that you made the intention, and you'll get it tomorrow, or you'll get it in an hour. Because you're not blocking the energy by, like I said to this man last night, I said, stop picking on the scab, just let it drop on its own. People don't realize that's another thing that they do. They don't let things happen. They just, I got to put energy in it. I got to focus on it. Yeah, but you're focusing wrong. You're focusing on the fact that you don't have it. So when you say what if, it's effortless, because you're saying, okay, what if we did this, or what if we had this, or what if this happened? You're not going to be harping on it because you're not focusing on it that I want it now. You're just letting it grow very naturally, very organically, and then it comes to pass. It's almost like the dynamic of it is almost like the thing with the books. Remember that if you write the book and you tell the person this is a true story, they can't read the book. But if you tell them this is a work of fiction, don't obsess about it, don't go drama queen on it, it's just a work of fiction, they have no problems. They just read it from cover to cover.
Yes, and then they remember it as being true, even though it was told to them as fiction. It's the greatest trick I've ever seen as far as, messages. And it was because of Dan Brown's book, the Da Vinci Code. The story behind the Da Vinci Code was the connection between Jesus and the Essenes and the Cathars and the Mary Magdalene being his wife and him having children that ended up becoming the Merovingian kings of France and then Europe and Charles. All of that story was well known to researchers. But even those people that tried to write nonfiction, it was like nobody wanted to hear it. So, including me, I tried to write it. The first book, John Kennedy book, The Connection Between Jesus Christ and John Kennedy, that book was an example of it. Then Dan Brown comes along and says, I got a story I want to tell you, but it's not true, it's just fiction. And all of a sudden, everybody is like, oh, did you know that Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene? Yes, but how do you know? I read this book. They don't remember it's fiction.
Dr. Costa spoke about that. The business that's how you wake up people. This is why I keep repeating it and repeating it. Some people get it, some people don't. Be yourself. Be the truest that you can be. Be the highest expression of yourself, because you are impacting everybody around you. Case in point, the very first time that he gave the 15-step process of, one person is lying down and the other person is guiding them in this very light transpersonal hypnotherapy session, they had a group of something like 60 people, and only like 12 were able to do it successfully. The other people, they just tried, and they couldn't get anywhere. A year later, they had another workshop in the same place, because they went around to different states renting meeting places to teach the workshop. So a year passed, they gathered at the same place. This time they had more people. They had like over 100, and practically 85% of them were able to do it successfully. And he explained it's because once you have the first person doing it, it's now part of the collective consciousness, and it goes out and it begins to propagate the thought, the notion, the idea. Even if you're not consciously aware of it, it's there now. It's part of the collective. So the next person that's going to try it is going to be drawing on that, is going to be resonating to that energy. So it's like you're tuning to a specific piece of music or tuning to a specific show. Now the second person to try it will have an easier time, because it's that knowledge, that beingness, that experience is now in the collective data bank. So he says that's all it takes, just one person to start, the ball rolling, and then as time passes, more and more people get it. So now, today, we are discussing UFOs, and people say, yeah, we know, they're everywhere, and we know that the aliens are here. Whereas 10 years ago, you would have been shot in the street if you said something like that. Because it wasn't there, it wasn't in the collective, it wasn't, fashionable, or people just didn't want to open to the thought. But as it becomes more and more, and that's why you don't need to go around, having major meetings to wake up people. You wake up. Everybody around you is going to start waking up, because your energy is hitting their energy. And your awakening is becoming part of the collective. So whether you like it or not, you wake up, others wake up around you. You don't have to teach them lessons or give them books or anything.
I know that's the critical aspect, I believe, of what we're going through now. Is if you focus on waking yourself up, keeping yourself pure in thought, keeping yourself, in a state of joy. If you can maintain that, then everybody around you is going to want it. It's like, I guarantee you, if you want to give somebody money, you don't have to put a gun in their face and say, take the money. Put it on your front porch. If you want to gift people with what you know to be, earlier in the day, on the Shungite show, Keely and Steph started telling about Jordan doing, every once in a while she tells her mom, put me on video, and she sometimes gets into a rant. And she was like dismissing all of these negative things from her life, and she said, I want to dance in my power. And that's where it's all going now. It's the concept of it's your power. Learn how to access yourself, because everybody is so darn important. Everybody. Yeah,
and don't get obsessed with your profession or vocation or whatever it is, because that's limiting you.
Story. What story you're telling,
Yeah. Why should I call myself a computer technician? What? So what happens when computers are replaced by something else? I'm going to disappear because I'm not a computer technician anymore? I can't do that. I am that I am, Walt Silva, in this particular expression, and that's the highest expression that I can be in this dimension. What I do for a living doesn't define me. I define it because I own it. So it's mine.
I'm owning the fact that I'm a storyteller. So, only take that stuff that you want to be your story too, because I tell great stories. Great stories. Most of it is based on a lot of research. I have a lot of stipulations as to what will become one of my stories. But everything changes, so it could be all lies. I don't know. Anyway, we are at the top of the hour, so let's ask our friend Colleen if she will give us a little tune, and we'll take a little break, and we'll be back, and then we'll talk about whatever we talk about, okay?
We'll be back in 4 minutes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And we are back.
Okie dokie. Are you there, sir? Is he there? He's not there yet. Oh, yeah. Okay, good. Can you do, well, I'm sort of interested. Can you expand a little bit more on what Anelia means concerning decoding the matrix?
Yeah, because what she does is she kind of uses the movie as an example. You know, for those that haven't seen the movie The Matrix, it's a sci-fi movie set in some unknown, undefined future where the planet has been taken over by intelligent machines, and humans are allowed to be born into the machine because they draw on the energy of human bodies to keep the machines running. So in order to keep human minds busy and entertained, all the minds of these bodies that are essentially asleep are existing in a cyberspace of sorts, where there is a world and people get up every morning and they go to work and they have friends and they go to parties, but it's all virtual. There's nothing real about it. So the story goes that, you know, a character is born who has the power to see beyond the illusion of the Matrix. So she's using that film as an example of this matrix that we are living in. Because if you study all the Eastern philosophies, all the masters that taught yoga in the world, they all teach you the same thing. This that you see that you think is so solid and so real is just the Maya. It's the cosmic illusion. And nothing is really solid. Everything is made of light, or as Yogananda would say, what you call matter is just frozen thoughts of God. There's nothing truly real. People like Rumbalo Melchizedek, if you read his book Living in the Heart, they tell you outright that the universe that you're seeing around you, you're projecting it from inside of you. He goes on to say, like, the third eye is like the projector in a movie theater. You're seeing it out there because you're projecting it. Dr. Costa used to say that human awareness is the one that is constantly creating things. Like, for example, when the universe got bigger, when they started building the big telescopes like the Palomar telescope, because you were looking out farther away. So wherever the human consciousness and awareness went, it just expanded the universe. He says, you know, once they put on Hubble, that you see so many light years, you know, into space. And some people might say, well, yeah, but what about aliens? You know, they come from far away. They've been there. There is no conflict because that's their space that they created with their awareness, with their consciousness. There really is no conflict when you accept that everything is one thing. I mean, you've heard of scientists that work on this thing that they call the chaos principle or chaos theory. It's actually a human label to label something that they don't grasp, and that's the fact that in the universe there's no accidents. There's really none. Everything is accounted for. At every time, you know, source consciousness knows where atoms are going to be at what moment in time, where they're going to go, what they're going to do. It's just that us in our teeny tiny microscopic consciousness, we can't conceive of something that gigantic. Can you imagine you're lying on a field and you're reading a book, you're having a picnic, and then all of a sudden you look down and there's a tiny red ant sitting on your chest? Can you imagine explaining, you know, when the ant looks at your head and it looks at your feet, it's seeing that, you know, wow, you're like 100 kilometers long or 100 miles long. You're so gigantic. And can you imagine telling the ant, convincing it that I can feel my feet and my head at the same time? It would never believe that. That's impossible. You're too big. You're 100 miles long. How can you feel your head and your feet at the same time? Impossible. And it's all scale. That's how we are. We can't conceive it, so it can't be, you know. But then Nancy says, what if?
Well, you know, there's an interesting, I think it was the Tao of Physics, and I think it was by that little guy, that little Oriental guy, Mickey something, but I can't remember his name. But anyway, and he was talking about studying the koi pond and what would it be like if a fish was taken out of the koi pond and then put back in the koi pond? How could that fish explain what just happened? It's been taken out of its reality of being in water and now comes out and sees just this unbelievable everything around it, and then has to go back and tell the other fish what it just happened to it. Right?
Yeah.
So I've always thought about that. Well, I have a fish tank, and I've got these things that are called Cories because everybody else is passed on. And Cories are neat because they don't look you in the eye, so you never develop a personal relationship with them. So if they live or die, I don't really know because I'm just looking at fish that I don't have an individual relationship with. But anyway, they're kind of neat. But about 6 months ago, this one fish started to go to the top of they're bottom eaters. So it goes to the top of the water and starts just wagging his tail so that he's skimming through the water with his head out. Now, that would normally indicate a fish that's having an oxygen problem. He he's been doing this for 6 months. And I've decided that this fish has come awake. And he is actually perceiving another dimension. You understand the illusion I'm making here? Illusion?
Yeah.
That he's actually, because when I go over there and I start to feed, he comes up. Almost every time I feed, he comes to the surface and does that. And he's like, I'm thinking, is this fish looking at me and watching me? I mean, is this part of his daily, entertainment? Oh, there's this big like you say, this huge thing that comes to that. I mean, they probably, it's crazy. If he wasn't in a fish tank, they'd probably lock him up. Anyway, just an observation on the perception. I actually saw The Matrix again about 2 nights ago. And one of the things that jumped out at me that I don't ever remember noticing before was when Neil is being shown what the reality is. He says, you think that it looks like this, but it actually looks like this. And it's this dark, awful, just desolate city. And he said that actually the way the atmosphere looked was, he said, we did that. Because as the AI began to take control, we thought that if we blacked out the sun, they wouldn't have the energy. And that's how they ended up dealing with the situation of having batteries, human beings made into batteries. And now my understanding is that these little babies, these fetuses that are in these cocoon kind of things, they are being programmed to think that they've gone and become adults.
That part of the film is never specified.
I never got it either, and I didn't.
Because the illusion has to be kept complete, so it has to go through the stages of growing up as a child. Because in the Matrix there are children. So
what's the need of it? That was, I started to really look at this thing, the Matrix itself, and okay, so you got this Matrix that the best example of the Matrix was in the last part of the movie when Neo begins to appreciate his powers, and he's in a hallway and he looks down the hallway at the agents, but all he sees is energy.
Yeah.
And that's when he dove inside one of the agents and was inside his body, and the guy was all crazy, that type of thing. But that to me was how the Matrix looks to me. It's this energy framework, and it's like you say, if you focus on part of whatever the Matrix is, that becomes real. It goes back to the quantum thing of it doesn't manifest unless it's appreciated. In other words, if you don't have somebody witnessing it, it doesn't happen. That basic concept of quantum physics. So I mean, nothing is going to exist if human beings don't pay attention to it.
Yep.
That's where I'm getting is like, are we at a point right now that we are actually in charge in manifesting a new reality, a little bit at a time, one show at a time maybe, but we are actually, we've gone, I feel like we've gone through some kind of a threshold. You know, that we're in, the playing field has definitely changed, in my opinion, to our advantage, I must say. So she's talking about decoding the matrix. What is she saying that people need to do to be able to perceive?
Well, the first thing is, like, she presents the thought, like you're saying, what if she uses the word, let's imagine. You know, let's imagine that, you know, you're sitting in your room and you are yourself because you're the focal part of your consciousness, so you are important. But then you're also the room. She keeps using the word environment, that you are you, and at the same time you are your environment. Everything is made of you. And when I did that on myself, on that experiment, and I purposely zoomed out so that I could encompass myself and my environment, that's when everything changed inside. It was like a big giant sigh, and all tension disappeared, all stress, anxiety, if there was any fear, whatever, it just melted. Because now there was nothing to fear. Everything is me. It was instead of feeling enclosed or limited, it was the other way around. I felt that there was no limit. And one of the reasons she teaches people to have this change of focal awareness is because this is how you address stuff that you need to dissolve. Like if you have a fear, that fear is made of you. It's made of your energy. For you to be able to experience fear, because you are an ocean of energy, some of that energy becomes the frequency of fear so you can experience it. So it's yours. So she says, instead of resisting stuff like there's a pain, some mental pain, emotional pain, something that's bothering you, in order to address it, you don't address it by ignoring it or pushing it away or I'm going to eject it from my life. All those things require focus on what? On the thing that's bothering you. So by focusing on the thing that's bothering you, it's bothering you even more. You know, everything follows your awareness. So by doing the opposite, instead of rejecting your energy, sit with it, accept it. It's made of you anyway. And just let it grow. You know, you're welcome here. You own it. It's yours. And as you pay attention to it and you let it grow, it just begins to dissolve. It's like you've seen tire smoke where it's leaving the flames. It looks so solid and compact. You could almost cut it with a knife. But as it goes up, it begins to dissipate until the point where you don't see it anymore. She does that. She lets the energy just inflate until it dissipates, and she says, and you fill that empty spot where that fear used to be, you fill it with light and with love. And it was interesting that this person I was dialoguing with, she had a rejection program to the term love, and I explained to her, you know, like everything else in this system of control, the word love has been subverted to the point where it means nothing of the sort. And first off, love is not an emotion. It gives birth to many beautiful emotions, but it's not an emotion. It's a force. It's an energy. It's an essence. It's one of the elements that we're made of. And when you realize that, because the emotions are born out of the mind. The mind experiences something, and out of that experience is born an emotion. Like, I'm thinking of a really bad experience that I had with a kid in school. Now all of a sudden the mind is experiencing hatred or experiencing resentment. Feeling does not come from the mind. Feeling comes from our beingness. So that's why feeling and emotions are two separate things, and they're two different things. But when you face that fear or whatever the limitation program is and just let it sit with it, it's yours after all. and just let it expand, and it just begins to dissolve. And then you replace whatever was there with light or love or both. So you're replacing something negative with something positive, or something. Light and love are part of the three elements that we are. Like she says, we are made up of joy, light, and love. And we mistake what we call light. Like you turn on a lamp and you say, oh, the lamp is lit. Look at all the light that it's giving off. That's not light. Sorry. That's an electromagnetic radiation that the particular organs that we have in our head are able to perceive, and we label it as light. Light is an essence. I mean, if you've done your shamanic journeys and you've gone into the etheric and you've gone into the astral, light is a substance. It's what the universe is made of. It's not a beam that comes out of a flashlight and hits the wall. That's not light. We call it light, I know, but you might say, why are we calling it light? Well, the term comes from the old esoteric masters. They labeled it as what they perceived, and when they were doing their out-of-body experiencing, that's how they perceived it. They perceived it as light, like light coming from a fire, or light from a superheated crystal, or whatever gives off electromagnetic radiation. They saw it the same, and they like the psychics who saw chakras for the first time. What did they see? They see wheels. What are we going to call it? We're going to call it a wheel. That's what the word chakra means. But those are the three things that we are made of. Love, joy, and light. And the Indians say Sat, Chit, Ananda. They use the words in Sanskrit. So.
Well, the concept that you were describing about your everything, that also came into play in the Matrix. In that, if you think about it, when Neil first starts out, the kind of stuff that they are doing is mind over matter, in that they were learning, controlling their own ability to do more. However, by the end of the movie, they were actually able to change the physical structure around them. Because
I said, there is no spoon, you're the spoon.
Exactly. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, it's the concept that, well, the wall's not really solid because the wall is part of me. I'm projecting that wall. It's my perception that it's there. I'm manipulating energy to create what I see as a wall. But it's only energy to begin with. And so they were able to, do this squirrely stuff with the walls and make changes that they couldn't do prior to that, once they understood that the Matrix was their creation. Yes, the carrier wave that was creating the illusion of it was from the computer that the AI, the center, the AI's brain, let's say. But it was their acceptance of the illusion that it was theirs. It was their perception that was creating the reality for them. And when they understood that they could simply change the reality by changing what they were perceiving, yep, that's when the difference came in their abilities.
Did we lose you?
No, I muted because of the. I was hoping Walt would say something, but he didn't say a damn thing.
I heard the police siren. I heard one in Dolly's this morning too. This afternoon.
What?
Police siren. So what the hell's going on in Florida?
Well, not only that, but Walt, Dolly was so funny. She was overtired, so she's doing her show. But then there was weird things happening, like Colleen's mic was up very high in her earpieces, and Colleen came on in a normal voice, but it sounded like some scream to Dolly, and she nearly had a heart attack. It was like all of a sudden somebody screaming at her. So she got over that, And then, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes later, maybe even longer, all of a sudden she starts screaming bloody murder, and it's like I didn't know what was happening. And a gecko, a lizard, had jumped on her lap. And it was black, and it looked like a snake to her. Well, it's the snakes that she's terrified of. So by the time she got herself under control, it was like, oh my God, where'd that come from? You know, and the fact it was black. Now, the only reason it would be black in a 3D natural world is that it was on a black cord because it's the camouflage, you know, it just takes on the color.
Geckos do that? I know chameleons do. I didn't know geckos did.
Yeah, there are certain lizards that will take on the look. Now, also down here, the ones that we have, they can be very dark brown and look black. Okay, so I wasn't sure if she was seeing one that was taking, because there's so many different, well, I don't know, she's up 3 hours north of me, it could be different lizards. But no, you've got lizards down here that are not chameleon, in that that's not the name of them, but that they do have chameleon capabilities of merging with, they'll look green if they're on green, they'll look brown if they're on brown, that sort of thing. So I thought, well, maybe black on black, you know. You don't see too much black in nature, but maybe. But anyway, so then about, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes later, I walk into my kitchen and I'm doing something on the counter, and one of these gecko lizards ran right across the counter in front of me. Now, in all my years of living here, I've never had one come running out right in front of me on the counter. So I guess lizard energy is at play here.
Little dragons?
Little dragons. I love the little dragons. This is a funny story. I get a comment from one of our customers, or somebody that wanted to be a customer. Oh, they were a customer. They'd already bought. Okay. And she's coming back and she's asking me a few questions. And she said, you might be interested in this link. And it had something about, I think, dragons in it. So, of course, I said, okay, I'll look at it. Well, this is a group of people. It's called DragonCenter.com. I'm not exactly sure what the relationship is with who was talking on this video. But the video has this woman who started out in Ireland with her partner, and they ended up in Brazil. So they were in Brazil when this interview went on, but they started in Ireland. So they had the beginning of connection to nature spirits already working, and I believe they were already working in some kind of a homeopathic essence. But they ended up getting introduced to the dragon energy. And it was odd because this particular video was made in the same week that I said to Nora, I said for Wednesday's show, I said, Nora, we got to talk about dragons. I don't know why, but we got to talk about dragons. And yet this video was being made that same day, or similar day. I mean, it was that week. So dragon energy was very prevalent. Well, it turns out that these people over the years, and it's a fascinating video. I'll try to figure out where it is, and when we put the stuff up, I'll give it to Colleen. She can put it on the YouTube page. But when they got involved in it, they started getting introduced to different type of energies of the dragons. And you remember in the show I had said, well, what energies are associated with dragon? Well, apparently there's over 179 because they made these cards up. And apparently you take the cards and there's a template for a mandala that you put out with the different cards, and then you can read them to say what influence that particular energy is in this particular aspect of your life, I suspect. But it was absolutely fascinating.
So this lady made those cards?
These people that were in Ireland and went to Brazil, yes. And so at the end of this, and it was like a conference call kind of thing, I guess, because and I was doing other things, so I wasn't looking at the screen all the time. I was listening to it. And all of a sudden, I hear somebody else, I can't tell the voices anyway, but this voice comes up and said, well, I bought some shungite from these people, and I went over to their website, and I started listening to one of their radio shows, and they were talking about dragons. And that's how we got introduced to the dragon video, because she had bought Shungite that then led her to one of our shows talking about dragons. So there is some connection to these people and dragon energy. And the reason I even thought about it, you said something about baby dragons. And they talk about baby dragons.
You said you have these little geckos. Maybe they're like little dragons.
Yep. As soon as you said that, I remembered this story about these people. So hopefully we can make some kind of contact and maybe get them on and talk about, what they know about the dragons, because and then I saw Dragonheart too. It's like all of a sudden dragon is trending. I don't turn the television on all that much, and I'm turning it on and there's Dragonheart. Have you done any shamanic? Okay, let me ask you this, because I was thinking about this too. Well, when you're doing your journeys, you have met many different types of guides. Can you just go through, is there groupings, or is everybody different? Is it just every imaginable spiritual entity that can be a guide, or ETs? I know there's ETs involved in it sometimes.
Well, there's no, so far from everything I've seen, there are no rules. There are no rules to guides that you have. Where are they residing? How many you have? It's one of those things, I guess it follows that rule. If you want to kill the spirit of something, organize it. It's not organized. It is what it is for you. And it depends on your soul group. It depends on your evolution. Because, I'll give you an example. The first time that Jean Rockefeller worked on me and she scanned me, she said that I was here because I had been so fed up with witnessing galactic wars that I was actually here on Earth taking time off. And I said to her, Earth is a vacation spot? This Earth you mean? So I found it kind of laughable that somebody after witnessing war would choose to come here. But more on that got filled in when I did the journey for Riley. Riley? It took me 2 tries to be able to complete the journey with him. So far, he's the first person I encounter where he actually has 2 levels of guides, because it seems like he must have had a history like mine where he came here after witnessing a lot of galactic wars, and this guide he was one single man, and he's like, the only way that I can label him is some kind of galactic guide, because he's actually like the go-between his original group and the guys that he has here on Earth, which are in the upper world. So the guide explained, this conflict just keeps going on and on, so they came to Earth to resolve it, because it's like, okay, instead of fighting with technology, we're going to go bare knuckle and we're going to resolve the issues here on Earth, and we're going to, level the playing field, and then all things are going to be resolved here at this level. So there's no need to continue all that never-ending destruction. So he has this particular guide that I can only define as a galactic guide, because he has to do with wherever he's coming from, and then there's a group of guys here on Earth that are, like a regular guide looking over him to keep his life on track. That's why, despite everything you know about the law of attraction and all the things that I've said about the focus of your awareness, sometimes no matter how well you follow those rules of keeping my awareness on what I want or asking for something, then forget about it. No, sometimes you might want something that your human consciousness wants, but is actually no good for you, spiritually or in some other dimension of your being that you're not aware of. So your guides will step in. And even though they're not supposed to interfere with your free will choices, the thing that you are chasing, the thing that you are wanting, is actually going to put you in physical risk and peril, they will step in and block you, even though you might not like it, but they're fulfilling their duty of keeping you on track and keeping you whole and safe and secure. So then other guys, I meet people that have a gentleman who's actually a member of Simon Park's meditation group. He's interesting because he's got two guides. One of them is a member of Inner Earth civilization, and the other guide is actually from another planet, and he gave the name of that civilization. They're not one of these popular documented civilizations, so you wouldn't be able to Google the name anywhere. Then you have guides that are in the upper world, as you would expect. Some people you go, they only have one, and just because I see one or two or several doesn't mean that that's a fixed thing for that person. It just means that that's what I witnessed in that particular journey. Chances are this person could have 1,000 guides. That's another thing that I had to learn about guides. Just because somebody is actually a guide and they're sitting there in the upper level of the fourth dimension, they're not omnisapient. They don't know everything there is to know about everything. So if you're trying to address a medical issue, you actually have to open your mouth and you have to ask, I need a medical specialist guide to deal with this. I'll give you an example. This weekend when you were speaking with Jean, she brought up a very real and very solid issue of past life trauma. The man who was almost cut in half with the bullets, and he had marks in this life to show where that past life got hit. I know several cases like that, and one of them, one of the ladies working for Dr. Costa, she had an issue that even though she was able to do the 15-step process correctly, all she could do is hear. She could hear, and she could get like intimations of things, but she could never see anything. You know how telepathy works visually, like the dog, being visually able to see that she's just telling him to run. Well, she could not visualize anything at all. So they did a special session with her to get to the bottom of this. And what they described to her is that in medieval times, she was a soldier, and in the middle of a battle, she got hit smack in the middle of the head with a hatchet, and the blade of the hatchet literally cut the pineal gland in two. So that trauma stayed with her. There was such an emotional charge with it, and it actually damaged her etheric third eye. So they had to Dr. Costa was the one conducting the session for her, and he says it was really interesting to witness what was happening on the other side, because they actually had to get a medical specialist guide who knew how to repair this type of damage. And he says it was interesting to see the circle of the other guys, other medical guys were actually present to learn from this guide. And he says that Dr. Costa explains how the body is actually made up of programs, like your fingers, each finger is a program, your hand is a program. It's actually an algorithm. It's a multidimensional algorithm, but it's like what you describe in the Matrix, where instead of seeing a solid body, you see streams of data. He described that a decade before the movie The Matrix was filmed. And he described how they have to open the head. And he says that in the astral and the etheric, the third eye is actually a crystal. And this guide actually had to reconstitute and restructure the crystal to make it whole again. It was still shattered by that experience. So once that session was completed, the next time she had a session, she was able to see everything her guides were showing her. She was able to see the guides. She was able to see the images that they were transmitting to her. It was actually done and repaired. So when you're asking your guides for help, my suggestion is don't just ask for the help. When I'm troubleshooting stuff with the stuff that I make, I ask. May I please, get help from an electrical specialist guy or an expert in magnetics or some expert in etheric energy or somebody, because just because your guides are your guides doesn't mean that they're experts at everything. They're not. There are so many guides, and they don't need to eat and sleep like we do. They just flash from here to there, at the speed of thought. So if you're asking for a specialist on something, they'll be there. You just have to ask. I mean, they can't function, they can't operate without your asking. They're not supposed to violate your free will. That's why people get frustrated with me, because they want to know what's going to happen. And they say no, because if she knows what's going to happen, she's going to sabotage herself. She's violating her own free will. So sometimes it's difficult to grasp, but that you come across those situations as well. So I don't know if I've answered your question correctly or if I strayed too much.
No, you have. Yeah. But so even because it's it could be that there are different. I mean, it could be that the form of the guides are something that you never even have seen, but that they project into your shamanic journey world in order to present certain energies that you will resonate with, including the resonating with the message and the presenter.
And I have witnessed non-human guides. So everything that can exist will exist.
Yeah.
So that's like, for example, Barbara White. Her power animal, her guide is non-human. That's one of the marks of this new paradigm, this new reality that we're stepping into. Just throw your limitations out the window, please. The universe is so big, and it's like the variety just never ends. Just open the door to anything and everything. Stop putting things in little boxes, like this is like this, and that's like that, and this rule, and that rule, and this has to be. That's what Wilhelm Reich was referring to. If you want to kill the spirit of something, organize it. Because what's at the bottom, what's at the root of any organization? Control. And it's a way to manage fear. As long as I'm in control of everything that happens under this roof, we're fairly certain that we're safe, because we know what the hell's happening. But that control kills spirit, because spirit doesn't plan, it doesn't organize, it's spontaneous. It accesses infinite knowledge in an instant and expresses it. How the hell are you going to go organize that? So if you throw the concept of organization out the window, everybody can be spontaneous, and there will be no chaos. What appears as chaos to the rational mind is because it's unable to grasp something that's so natural as the infinite knowing of the soul. It's like what I say to people when I read their human design. I said, if you get familiar, just allow your design to be, learn how your type works, how your inner authority works, what's your strategy for dealing with others, then your actions have no karma, because your actions are part of the symphony of the universe. Your actions are actually meshing with all the infinite actions that are happening in the universe. But when you try to use the mind to decide, and the mind doesn't know you, then you end up getting into trouble. Because every action that you take is going to have a consequence, is going to have a karmic debt, because you're going against the flow of everything that exists.
I'm sorry, but when it's sort of like when you finally realize you don't have any control, okay, that you can put things out there, you have a huge amount of ability to manifest, but because we're so limited in our imagination, we're not the best people to do the actual structure of the manifestation. And so you've got to rely on higher knowledge in the form of other echelons of energy fields or souls or spirit guides. So, but once you do that, once you give over to the belief that if you have a thought, a what if concept, then the universe will say, what if? Let's see what happens. And they take care of the creating of it. You suddenly have an enormous amount of control. Because you just asked the universe to give you something. And all you did was say, what if? What if?
Yeah,
I
instead
don't
of
think
being
you have to
obsessed,
look at it. I'm sorry.
or instead of being obsessed with the prestige of, oh, I did this, stop that. Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Many people actually allow themselves to enjoy anything at all. They're so busy controlling everything. Life becomes drudgery. Can't enjoy anything. And what are you going to take with you when you leave? What? The cows, the car, the ironing board, the blender?
Well, I see them taking the roller coaster and pushing it up the hill, and then trying to jump into it before it gets over the other side. While the rest of us are sitting back letting the roller coaster be run by the roller coaster person and having a wonderful time with no effort.
Exactly. But it always, when people feel guilty about stuff like that, I always tell them, don't waste your time feeling guilty. I mean, you've been born into a system of control, and this is one of those programs. Giving your power away, that's a program. Feeling unworthy about stuff, that's a program. Doubting your power is another program. Feeling that you have to keep doing stuff, because that's another thing that in that 1 hour call of Inelia and Decoding the Matrix, she challenges people to just sit and do nothing. She says, I don't mean sit and meditate, because that's actually doing something. She says, just sit. Sit, don't move. Just sit and look at the wall. Look around you, but just sit there, and you will experience in your body, in your awareness, a program kicks in that doesn't want you to do that. Immediately you get the thought, oh, instead of doing this, you should be cleaning the cupboards. You should be washing the bathroom. You should be doing laundry. Whatever. A million different things will pop into your head, arguing with you to the fact that you're sitting on this chair. And she says it's another way to challenge the matrix, and that's a program that you can grab and dissolve. And I've seen it in many people. They cannot sit still for 5 minutes. It's like a crime. These 5 minutes I could have, could have plowed all the fields in 5 minutes. Be all right.
They can't get into their cars without turning on their cell phones. Now, I remember a time and place where if you asked most people, their drive to work, was it fun or not? Well, it wasn't particularly fun, but I had many of them that said, but it's the only time I'm alone by myself. This was pre-cell phones. And people would take that time of driving back and forth to work, no matter how far it was, to just be quiet with themselves. Yeah, they might listen to the radio, but a lot of people just were quiet by themselves. And now everybody's on the telephone. They can't even take a drive by with themselves.
Yeah.
It's a very peculiar world we live in.
And my mother noticed something that I wasn't noticing right away. She says, take a look, and whoever they're communicating with, they would rather be with that person on the phone than in person. They like the phone personality of that person, not the person itself.
Right.
Wow, you know what? You're right.
It's very true. Oh my.
I'll be your friend as long as we're on the phone. I mean, don't ask me to come over to your house.
Let's not break bread together. Let's just talk on the phone. That's funny, but she's very accurate. I think that's true about a lot of people.
And one of the things
I guess there's people I would rather talk to on the phone than to be in person. I'm guilty.
One of the things I noticed, and I go back to human design for this, is that Ra-Uru Hu would explain how important it is, the intricate energy play between the auras of people when they get together. So, taking that into account, I realized that when people are communicating remotely, with the computer, with the phone, as long as their physical persons are not in proximity. It's just mind talk. It's one mind talking to another mind. And the rest of the equation is tossed to the side, which is the energies of our bodies, the interaction of our auras. I didn't catch this before, but now I realize why all those people that in past experiences, they were beautiful on the phone, lovely to be with, and then you go to see them in person, and just after 5 minutes, I just want to run away. And I wonder, am I insane? Am I crazy? Am I missing something? And then it hit me. It's just, yeah, you're with the phone, you're talking to them. Your mind is talking to their mind. But the bodies are, you just broke the equation. You've separated elements. The bodies have no play because they're not in proximity to each other. Once they come into proximity, all those circuits and all those gates are going to be hitting each other, and you're either going to like this person or you're going to hate them. Because you're an occupant in this vehicle. And no amount of mind is going to make that go away.
Well, there is something about the digital connection that's different. That's for sure. Because you don't have telltale physical signs being given to you. You don't see their faces. You don't see what their facial expression is. You don't see if they seem physically body relaxed or if they're uptight. None of that is feeding into you. So that you can really kind of just concentrate, focus on the mental connection. And that's why I think that so many people working energy work really prefer to work over something like Skype or the telephone, because it's a much clearer connection. Because your 3D mind is programmed that if and you know these people, they're talking to you, but they look like they're smiling, almost like a sarcastic smile.
Oh yeah.
My brother had that. It was pasted on his face from when he was a kid. It was his face, but that was who he was. You know, just always looking like he was looking down at you because he always had this strange smile. I'm not saying he wasn't there, but you can pick up things from people that they don't even realize are there. So yeah, and when we get on the radio and we're talking to people out there, sometimes you'll feel like you've got somebody that you're talking directly to. You know, you may not know who they are, but you feel this presence out there. They're saying, "You're talking to me. It's me you're talking to." So, Colleen, what's happening with you? Are you doing good? Baby's doing great. Are you chewing something? Have I interrupted you?
Not at this moment. I'm not. Thank you. We're fine. Baby's great. Trying to push herself up and all that stuff.
Yeah, you said that earlier. I couldn't believe she was really at that age. I mean,
She's reaching for the phone.
The microphone,
I think. Yeah, I had her in my lap the other day, sitting here. She's just staring at the computers, and when I took her picture, she's staring right at the Skype thing. I'm like, dang, girl. These really do pull the kids in. But, I don't know, she just amazes me.
So she'll be able to tell her granddaughters, when I was a baby, they had these old-fashioned computers where...
This great big microphone thing Grandma always had in her face.
And they had strange ears.
Yeah, everything's just fine. Pretty quiet, really, because she don't cry much. Of course, you know, less Carrie. Somebody puts her down, they've spoiled her. She don't like being put down. Got to hold her all the time.
I get put down once in a while. I can't imagine being carried around the house all the time.
Yeah.
So get one of those papoose things on your back.
Well, that's kind of what I suggested to her mother. She'd have to have it on her back to balance herself out. But
oh my! When you get a new life in your house, it does change the energies, doesn't it?
Sure does. Changes
And-
a lot of things.
And the animals, are they just ignoring her now? She's just part of the background?
Pretty much. Now, when they go out and come back in, Sugar's got to lick the baby.
Wow.
But nobody else licks her. And the cats are
Sugar's
just...
been licking her.
Huh?
Because Sugar's been licking her.
It's like,
looking
and the
at
cats
Facebook.
don't care one way or another. It's like, Except Makai. If I've got the baby laying in the bed, Makai thinks whoever's in my bed needs to scratch her. Scratch her ears and all that. So she's up rubbing all over the baby, like, scratch me.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Have you felt like you've made some higher level connection with her? Like, just connect to this child that can't really do much yet, but has an enormous amount of brain power, thought power?
I don't know. I'm still just kind of watching her, being amazed that, her, she can see, but I'm not sure how well she's focusing quite yet.
Yeah.
Because if she can focus, she sure the hell ignores a lot because she's off looking at something else. She stares at the walls a lot. So I'm wondering if there's beings still around her.
You can't see.
Huh?
Sounds like she's seeing stuff that you can't see.
Well, that could very well be. Now, see, her mother and her grandmother, not her great-grandmother, often see things that I can't see. So that's quite possible, because she'll just kind of turn her head and just stare at the wall a little bit, and you're like, what the hell's over there? Or who the heck? But, I don't know. Like I said, keep saying, she's just got this ancient, old soul, serious, wise, kind of something about her.
Well, she's cute as can be.
Oh, that she is, and all that hair, man.
I'm
jealous.
Yeah. Now, is it very fine or is it pretty thick?
Well, it's thick. I mean, it's fine because it's baby hair, but it's still thick. Thicker than mine. I don't know whose is finer, hers or mine, though. But but it's thick, and it covers the whole head, not just like this little scrupt in the front or on top or anything. It's her whole head. I mean, and it's hanging down on her neck a little bit and back.
Oh, wow.
I bet you when she starts talking, she's going to start looking around and ask the people, where the heck is my luggage?
We lost it again, kid.
Oh, well. So, anyway, what have you got coming up next on Maggie Show?
Okay, I recorded today's shows and have them all up in the player. So after this one, I've got Mona's show up and ready to go because we play it on B while Dolly's show is live. This way, those who were listening to Dolly and couldn't listen to Mona can now listen to Mona's show.
Cool.
And then I've got the Shungite. Is that Shungite reality show?
No, it's just the Shungite radio show.
Oh, Shungite radio. Okay.
Well, I don't know.
You know, you had SS at first, and then you changed it to SRS, and I said, what the hell is SRS? So now I know.
But, you know, Shungite reality works.
Well, that's because, you know, you got the cosmic creating and all, you know, that kind of, and I get confused with all the different show titles.
Yeah, me too.
So I was like, okay.
But I think I like that. We'll call it the Shungite reality show.
Okay. Well, there you go. And then, of course, then I got Dolly Reads for You, the replay up after that. And then I'll have this one edited and up and play next. So those are going to be playing later this evening until tomorrow when we get ready to do whatever the heck we do tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do tomorrow. I never know.
Oh, we got World Talk with Friends.
Yeah, we got World Talk with Friends, and anybody that wants to, contact me, you got something to say, please do,
You don't even have to be of this world.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Just don't be too strange and freak us out.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we go to Unknown Country for Whitley. Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, that's tomorrow, though, Whitley, right?
Right.
Are you there?
Yeah. You're not hearing me?
No, I did. All of a sudden you just stopped. But that's tomorrow you're talking about. Or are you doing Whitley tonight?
No, that's tomorrow because we were talking, with World Talk with Friends, which is tomorrow.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what we're gonna be doing on World Talk, but Nora and I, and occasionally Colleen, we seem to have some interesting discussions, just chit-chatting about this, that, and the other thing. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to have to shut this stream down because it is reset in the last 3 minutes 3 times. So I don't know. Walt, when you can, we got to get this taken care of. So I guess it's 8 o'clock. We're going to say goodnight on, please go over to Haggy Shack and donate. You can get for $30 or more, you can get Shungite stickers that you would pay $30 in the store, but you don't have to pay the shipping because she's going to mail them to you. Please give her the money energetically. You'll feel better. She'll feel better. It's an energy thing. It's just an energy exchange. And when we're doing it, when you're doing it outside in that other world, it's a black magic spell they have on. Thanks, everybody. Be safe, and we'll see you tomorrow if you come on over at 1 p.m. on Haggy Shack. Be safe.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks a bunch.
Yep. See you next time.
Mm-hmm.